It really is such an exciting and wondrous period to trace in all its hues. So we have taken three composers who represent different parts of this Romantic period to gain a better understanding of where it began, where it developed, and where it slowly faded. First and foremost, 200 years after his birth in Hungary, there is Franz Liszt, who was there at the beginning. In the middle period is the great Czech composer Antonín Dvořák, and then the composer often called the last of the Romantics, who became a transitional figure from the Romantic period to the modern works of the 20th century, Gustav Mahler, also born in the Czech lands. This tour begins in Prague and examines the way cultural history affected Dvořák's contribution. The links to many famous composers can be found in the streets of Prague, in the Czech capital. Franz Liszt came to Prague on several occasions, but on his first visit in March 1840 he appeared as a surprise to the patrons at a Mardi Gras masked ball at the Estates Theatre. His escort was Baroness Schlick. The next day he paid a visit to the home of the leading Prague composer of that time, Václav Jan Tomášek. He was meeting with the merchant Jakob Fischer, who was the only seller of tickets to the Liszt concerts in Prague. Liszt performed here, inside the Grand Salon, at Pilatus' house. At the end of his first performance, Liszt gave several encores. A member of that first concert audience was 16-year-old Bedřich Smetana, who would go on to become regarded as the father of Czech music, as the composer of the famous work of 6 symphonic poems, Má vlast, or My Country. Liszt had intended in 1840 to do just 3 concerts. But because of their success, Liszt extended his schedule to 6 concerts, and then donated the proceeds of one concert to a local Prague hospital and the proceeds of another to the Institute for the Blind. As you exit from this massive Pilatus house, you find across the street a building which was once called at the House of the Three Golden Lions. It's now Wolfgang Inn. But it was here in 1787 that Mozart had stayed, and across the road was his librettist Da Ponte, and they supposedly swapped ideas about the score for the opera Don Giovanni from one window to the other. Looking down on this scene today is Franz Liszt. Liszt often came to the Czech lands for health reasons to attend the spas, in addition to performing in Prague. In 1846, as well as performing in Pilatus' house, he also performed in the Convict Hall. The history of Mahler's relationship with Prague really started when he was 11 years of age. He attended the grammar school here in the new town, but only for a year before returning to his childhood town of Jihlava in Moravia. As an adult, in July 1885, he was engaged by the Prague German Opera as a conductor at the very young age of 25. His home at the beginning of this engagement, and also later in May and September of 1908, was a hotel called the Blue Star. But by the time he arrived as a young conductor in Prague in 1885, the Estates Theatre had become known as the Royal German Theatre, and it was there, and later at the New German Theatre, which opened in 1888, that Mahler's performance links can really be found. The New German Theatre today is the Prague State Opera. Mahler practiced piano at a house of ill repute called Gogo, just behind the Estates Theatre in 1885, but today it's a respectable restaurant called the Red Peacock. After first staying at the Blue Star Hotel when he arrived in 1885, his second place in Prague was here, very close to the Estates Theatre. His first tour of duty in Prague ended in 1886 when he took the appointment in Leipzig. At that time his residence was close to the old Jewish district. In later years his name came to be associated most with the New German Theatre, today's Prague State Opera. In August 1888 he conducted the opera Die Drei Pintos there, his own First Symphony on the 3rd of March 1898, Beethoven's Ninth on the 4th of June 1899, and his own Third Symphony on the 25th of February 1904. Mahler's last visit to Prague was in 1908 when he conducted the premiere of his own Seventh Symphony. Antonin Dvorak came to Prague in 1857 at the age of 16. He lived here for 2 years. He worked in an institution training organ players and choir masters at that time. Just up the street was the Church of St. Giles, where he had been confirmed. He moved on to his aunt's flat in Charles Square, and it was here that he loved to walk in the green space not far from her apartment. He was also married at St. Peter's Church in Prague, and after his wedding to Anna Chemakova, they lived here. They then moved on here, in Žitná Street, after the deaths of their children. Tchaikovsky visited Dvorak here in 1888, and this was the apartment where Dvorak died. In 1896 he had conducted many of his own works, including the Ninth Symphony, at the first concert of the Czech Philharmonic Orchestra in the Prague Rudolfinum's main concert hall called Dvorak Hall. In 1904 his funeral was held at St. Salvatore Church. He was buried at the Vyšehrad Cemetery.
Old Town Square, the visitor marvels at such sights as the Baroque St Nicholas Church, as the former Hussite Church, Our Lady Before Tin, and the square's centrepiece, the astronomical clock on the face of the old town hall. The clock dates from 1490, when it said the master clockmaker Hannes, who built it, was blinded so that he couldn't repeat his masterpiece. Hourly, the 12 apostles revolved through opened windows above this timeless piece of craftsmanship.
Really, Neville. Very nice, Terry, thank you.
It's like bad medicine.
Bad medicine, you think?
I think so.
Okay. And your opinion, Doctor?
Oh, very, very therapeutic.
Very therapeutic. That's their excuse too. What do you think, Graham?
Very sippable.
Sippable is a good term too. Ladies, enjoying it?
Cinnamon.